Hi there, good morning. You're watching Market Cafe with me, Snehisha, and with me is Shreyanti. Second, well, you're watching ET Now. Thanks so much for starting your day with us. Now, this is a show where we'll take you through everything that was happening globally as well as in India, where we were fast asleep last night. Everything that happened in terms of markets, non-market news, and a lot more. In the second half of the show, we'll also take you through all the stocks that you need to be keeping on your radar today, and what stocks brokerages are flagging off for us this morning. So, with that, let's kick off the show then. And Shreyanti, take us through what the global handover is looking like. Tell us what's happening in the US and European markets.
Absolutely, and you're seeing an interesting trend play out for the US markets, because what you're seeing is that stock futures were of course little changed after a positive start to the week, and investors are bracing for mega cap earnings. That's something that you're seeing play out along with the latest Federal Reserve interest rate decision that is also keenly watched, and a jobs report that is also on investors' radar. Stocks are of course also on pace to snap a 6-month winning streak, but that is not in line with the kind of moves that we saw in the regular trading session yesterday. So Wall Street is coming off a positive session. When you look at what happened with Tesla stocks also, they jumped after the electric vehicle maker passed a key milestone. And then when you look at the regular day move also, you have the S&P 500 that added just about 0.3%, Nasdaq as well as Dow Jones added 0.4% each. And even so, stocks are still headed for their first losing month since October, as rate cut expectations are dropping significantly from where they were at the start of the year. So when you look at the 30 stock index, that is on pace for more than a 3% loss in April. When you look at S&P 500 and Nasdaq, both of them are headed for declines of 2% each. So those are the kind of moves that you're seeing coming in terms of the monthly action coming in for the three indices. Now, markets are of course pricing in just 1/4 percentage point of a cut in 2024, which is down from the previous expectation of 6 or 7 anticipated coming into the new year that were being penciled in earlier. So the week ahead, of course, is going to be a busy week. The busiest week of corporate earnings is set to continue, with Amazon and Apple set to report their numbers. Then you of course have McDonald's, Coca-Cola, as well as Eli Lilly and PayPal before the open, and after the open there's of course Starbucks as well as Pinterest that are expected to report their numbers. And of course there's the April jobs report, like I mentioned, that is going to be keenly watched for the US markets. So that largely is the handover coming in from the US markets. When you look at Europe, then the regional stock 600 index closed up just about 0.1% up, with sectors broadly positive. When you look at the DAX, then that saw a downtick of about 0.2%. So those are the kind of moves that we're seeing coming in for the European markets as well.
Absolutely. With that, let's also take a look at what's happening in the world of oil, because some cuts coming in over there as well. Now, crude oil futures have fallen by $1 on Monday as the US Secretary of State made a renewed diplomatic push in the Middle East to secure a ceasefire in Gaza and head off an Israeli offensive against Rafah. A successful ceasefire agreement would likely further ease the geopolitical risk premium factored into oil prices on fears that the war in Gaza could trigger a broader conflict in the Middle East that disrupts crude supplies. Now, when you look at the moves then individually, the WTI June contract ended at $82.63 a barrel, down $1.2 or almost 1.5%. Also on a year-to-date basis, this US oil indicator has gained 15.3%. When you shift focus and also talk about what's up with Brent, now Brent's June contract ended at $88.4 a barrel for the day, down almost $1.1 or 1.2%. Year-to-date, the global benchmark has risen nearly 14.75%. Now, Secretary of State Antony Blinken held talks with Arab leaders in Saudi Arabia yesterday. He will travel to Israel and Jordan today. So on the back of this, we'll have a close eye on what happens to oil prices, because a lot of geopolitical pressures could also influence the demand and supply of oil coming in, and hence the price pressures that we are seeing being built up. But shifting focus then, let's also talk about what's happening with gold, because the gold prices rose on Monday, helped by a weaker dollar, as focus turns to the Fed Reserve's policy meeting and US non-farm payrolls data due this week. Remember, the policy meeting starts today, and this is for cues on the central bank's interest rate trajectory. Spot gold was up 0.2% to $2,342.4 per ounce, and US gold futures have also settle 0.5% higher. But as of now, gold is trading with a downtick of almost 0.5%. So we'll see how that pans out for this metal as well. But well, yes, that's the handover coming in from the world of crude as well as gold, Shanzi.
Well, absolutely, and there's a lot of events that you should keep an eye on. Of course, like I mentioned, there's that US FOMC two-day meeting that will remain in focus. But from the Eurozone, you have a host of data coming in, CPI and GDP data from the Eurozone. And from China, then there's kicks in manufacturing PMI and non-manufacturing PMI data sets as well. So those will be keenly watched as well. Now, in terms of corporate action, there's of course IFL Finance rights issue that opens and Patanjali hearing in the Supreme Court that will remain in focus as well. Now, in terms of the primary market action, of course, there's JNK India that will be listing on the bourses, and that listing will remain in the spotlight. And in terms of other events that you should keep an eye on, there's of course Ampere Nexus e-scooter that will be launched in India. There's Japan unemployment and industrial production data as well, and retail sales data coming in from Japan. And like I mentioned earlier, there's of course Amazon earnings, and there's HSBC earnings that you should be keeping an eye on as well in terms of other events.
Alright, let's move on and let's start talking about all the big global stories that we've been tracking for you this morning. And the big talking point of the week, of course, is the outcome from the two-day Federal Reserve meeting. Rates are largely expected to remain unchanged amid the central bank's quest to tackle stubbornly high inflation. Remember, rates have been high and steady at those 22-year highs since July last year. While indices have soared on optimism that the Fed will achieve a soft landing for the economy, even notable FOMC members have been forced to admit inflation has been stickier than what they had earlier anticipated. Several officials, including Chair Jerome Powell, have signaled that rates may need to stay higher for longer if inflation does not meaningfully slow down. Markets are pricing in just 125 bips cut by the end of this year versus the 6 or 7 that we were penciling in at the beginning of 2024. And overall, the central bank is expected to maintain its cautiously hawkish stance as well.
Well, shifting focus to some stock-specific action, then shares of tech giant Apple were on the rise after Bernstein upgraded their stance, citing waning fears of sluggish iPhone 15 sales in China. Bernstein also went on to advise investors, ask them to be like Buffett. Apple has been upgraded to outperform, representing a 15% upside here on.
Well, meanwhile, the European Union has given Apple 6 months to ensure its iPad operating system complies with the Digital Markets Act, which came in force this year. According to the EU, the operating systems for iPads has been designated as a gatekeeper under the tech rules by EU. Under the Digital Markets Act 2022, services owned by Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon and TikTok have already been labeled gatekeepers, which control access to their platforms, making it hard for customers to switch.
Moving on then, centering focus on some earnings then, world's largest chip maker Samsung Electronics Q1 profits soared a whopping 932% amid rising chip demand. Company's revenue for the quarter ended March jumped 12.81% also on a year-on-year basis. Important to note that the South Korean electronics giant saw record losses in 2023 as the industry reeled from a post-COVID slump in demand.
Well, and more updates are coming in from Elon Musk's China visit. Shares of Tesla soared sharply, logging their best day since March 2021. Moves came after the EV maker passed a significant milestone to roll out its advanced driver assistance technology in China. Local Chinese authorities have removed restrictions on the company's cars after passing the data security requirements. Now, this move has raised expectations that Tesla's full self-driving would soon be available in China, which is the largest market for electric vehicles.
Alright then, shifting focus to startup funding then, and startup funding in the penultimate week of this month has fallen by almost 30%. It has also come down from $103 million to $74 million as compared to last week. Ashisha is standing by with more details. Ashisha, tell us which sectors are flourishing and which are the ones that are lagging behind?
Well, yes, let's understand some funding trends that are taking place in the startup space. And funding nearly declined by 30% on a week-on-week basis in the startup space, with a decline of nearly 17% on a year-on-year basis. In fact, deal intensity in the latest week improved gradually to about $5.3 million per deal. Let's also look at the historic trends that we have seen in the month of April. So this year, for the week ended April 19, value of deals stood at about $103 million, which deteriorated for the week ended April 26 to about $74.2 million, and same time last year it stood at about $63.3 million US. As far as number of deals are concerned, for the week ended April 19, about 15 deals were signed, which deteriorated to about 14 in the next week, and same time last year about 26 deals were signed for the week ended April 25, 2023. Some of the companies which raised funds within the startup space include the likes of Lenskart, Let's Transport, Trua Space and Planes. So these were some of the deal trends that we are seeing in the startup space.
Alright, Ashesha, thanks so much for that very interesting information. But viewers, with that, we'll slip into a short breather on this edition of Market Cafe. When we come back, we'll take a look at how the Asian markets have opened up. Now, we've seen some fresh data coming from China as well. So we'll take a look at how that pans out for all the Asian indices. But you stay tuned. Hi there, welcome back, and thanks so much for still staying tuned to ET Now. Well, let's take a look at what the Asian markets are up to this morning. Largely set to extend gains on Tuesday across indices in Asia, and these are also tracking Wall Street moves when it comes to the intraday move that we've seen yesterday as well. Now, investors in China, we've just got new fresh data coming in from China as well. China's April manufacturing PMI has come at 50.4 versus an expected amount, or the estimated amount of 50.3. So they've slightly outperformed what the street was expecting from them. Remember, an amount over 50 marks expansion, and an amount below 50 marks contraction in manufacturing activities. So it looks pretty good for China right now. Shanghai right now not doing much, but let's take a look at what Hang Seng is doing, and we'll have Hang Seng on the screen also shortly for you. This is what Shanghai is up to, and largely Hang Seng seems to be in the green as of now. At least up 0.5% is what I can see on Hang Seng as well. Moving on, let's also talk about what Japan is up to, because lots of factors when it comes to Japan. Japan's top currency diplomat Masaru Kanda has reported to decline to comment on whether the finance ministry has intervened to prop up yen after it fell to yet another record low on Monday. The currency weakened to its lowest level against the US dollar yesterday at 160.03 before strengthening sharply to trade around the 155 level. Traders will also assess economic data from Japan and South Korea. From Japan, like we mentioned earlier, unemployment, industrial production and retail sales will be on the radar as well. On the back of that, let's take a look at what Nikkei is doing. Nikkei is up 620 points. Very good moves coming in for Nikkei, up more than 1.5% as we speak. Let's move on, take a look at what Kospi is also up to. Initially, when Kospi opened up, it was up 0.2%, and it's still up 0.5%, a 15-point uptick coming in on that index as well. The country's factory output fell in March by the most in the last 15 months, down 3.2% compared to a 0.6% gain that the street was expecting. So, well, negative moves coming in over there, but nonetheless, Kospi managing to hold on to the green, 0.5% uptick coming over there as well. Lastly, let's also take a look at what Australia is doing as of now. In the ASX 200 had opened slightly in the red, but has recovered and it's almost 0.3% in the green, 20-point uptick coming over there as well. But what's interesting to note is yesterday, the kind of moves we had in our market. Nifty spot closed at 22,643, up a solid 1%. Remember, the GIFT Nifty yesterday was also indicating a very good start. Global cues were supportive. Today also seems like one of those days where all of this is being mimicked again, and GIFT Nifty as of now at 22,787. When you see it on a futures basis, it's largely flat. When you see it on a spot basis, it's more than 140 points uptick. That the GIFT Nifty is penciling for us this morning. And while global cues are also looking rather good, global handover has been coming in strong. So we'll just have to see if we can continue the winning streak that we had in the markets yesterday, Shyansi.
Well, absolutely, and there's a lot lined up for us throughout the course of this day. And on the market, of course, we have some very interesting conversations for you. At 8:30, we'll be in conversation with Anil Kothuri, MD and CEO of FedBank Financial Services, to talk about their earnings. At 9:20, then, we'd be in conversation with Vijay Kedia, Director Atul Auto, and That'll be an interesting conversation that you should definitely keep an eye out for. At 9:30 then we'd be in conversation with Angan Guha, MD and CEO at Birlasoft, to talk about their earnings, and to decode earnings of KPIT Technologies. We'd also talk to Sachin Tikekar, President and Joint MD of the company, at 9:40. At 9:50 then we'd also talk to Shalabh Saxena, who's the MD and CEO at Spandana Spurti, to talk about their earnings and to also decode Poonawalla FinCorp's earnings. We'd also be in conversation with the MD of the company at 10 a.m. At 10:10 a.m. then, we'll also be in conversation with the management at PNB Housing Finance to talk about their earnings. And to decode the earnings of Canfin Homes at 10:20, we'd also be talking to Suresh S. Iyer, who's the MD and CEO of the company. At 10:30 then, we'd also be in conversation with Manish Tandon, CEO and MD Zensar Technologies, to decode their earnings as well. So power pack lineup for you right there. Keep an eye on all of those interesting conversations. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, let's get a move on then and take a look at what the RBI has said. The RBI has issued a directive to lenders regarding fair and transparent interest charging practices and advised lenders to refund excess interest charged. My colleague Astha is standing by with more details on this. Astha, tell us a little more about what this directive said then.
Well, there's a big news coming from the Reserve Bank of India, who issued a directive to the lenders regarding the fair and transparent interest charging practices. So there was a supervision study which was done by the RBI, and they have released a press release in which they have notified the regulatory entities to take care of all the fair and transparent interest charging practices which is taken on. There were some unfair practices which were observed, and I state that RBI noticed that there were some lenders who were charging interest before the funds are dispersed to the borrowers. Also, the lenders were charging full month's interest on the partial month disbursements or repayments. Also, some lenders were collecting the advance installments but calculating the interest on the full loan amount. So these were some unfair practices which was observed by the RBI. So what actions did the RBI take? That were, RBI had advised the lenders to refund the excess interest which is charged on the borrowers. They have to refund it all. Also, the RBI encouraged the online transfers for the loan disbursement instead of checks. So RBI also encourages to make the online transfers and not the check. Also, there is a strict action by RBI that they have told the regulatory entities to review on all the loan disbursement methods, the interest application and the charges. Also, they have told the regulatory entities to implement corrective actions, including system changes, and ensure fair practices. So this is the press release which is RBI has put down in the public domain, and they have to, the regulatory entities have to take care and practice all the fair and transparent interest charging practices.
All right, well, Astha, thanks so much for taking us through that. Let's move on then. And Nestle has been under scrutiny over the nutritional composition of its baby food Cerelac. Controversy was brewing over its added sugar component, and Nestle's CMD, Suresh Narayanan, who clears the air over it and shares the company's effort to tackle the same, spoke to us. And here's a short excerpt from his conversation with ET Now's editor-in-chief, Nikunj Dalmia.
What is important for an infant below the age of 18 months is the level of nutrition that is provided. What is the level of nutrition? This is globally set. This has got nothing to do with any particular geography. In terms of protein, fats, vitamins, minerals, and carbohydrates. On added sugar, as per the FSSAI guidelines, and I think they are wise enough to set the guidelines for the country based on Codex standards and other standards, they have said that you can go up to 20% of added sugar, that is sucrose, provided it gives 20% of the carbohydrate requirement in the product. So add sucrose, provided it goes up to 20% of the carbohydrate requirement. As far as we are concerned, the level of added sugar in our product, which comes from basic sugar and also from cereal-based crispies, which are added in order to texturize the feed, is at 7.1 grams per 100 grams of product, when the FSSAI standard is 13.6 grams for 100 grams of feed. So our standards are at almost 50% of what the FSSAI specifies. Second fact, in Europe, there are products with added sugar and no added sugar. So this statement being made that there is a kind of a racial divide between what happens in Europe and what happens in the rest of the world. There are products in Europe which are added sugar, no added sugar. There are products in Asia, added sugar, no added sugar. So therefore, this unfortunate remark that has been made is something that is factually not correct, because in Europe, you will find products with added sugar and with no added sugar as well. Now, on added sugar, the company has in the last 5 years made a progress of reducing by almost 30% the added sugar. The journey continues, Nikunj. I'm not stopping there. I'm looking at further ways of reducing the amount of added sugar that I've got.
I'd want to get this absolutely right for our viewers. Your baby food is as per the food standards which have been set by FSSAI, and you are maintaining that quality. I guess the larger question is that the standards, in a sense, when they were set, that was a couple of decades ago, and they need to be revisited, especially given that the sugar content has gone higher, and the awareness that sugar is okay, gives you energy, but it has long-term negative health benefits. It needs to be revisited. Is that something which needs to be thought through?
Look, I think, Nikunj, it is very clear. We ourselves as a company are doing it, reducing the added sugar. I said 30% in the last 5 years, and the journey is going forward. My vision would be one day to have a zero added sugar product in the market. Let me be very clear about it. It's not something that I would like to walk away from an ambition that we have as a company. I think the food safety, the FSSAI is extremely competent, looking at global standards. They incidentally revise it not decades, but they revise it every couple of years.
All right, there you have it. That was Nestle's CMD clearing the air on the sugar levels. And this is what he had to say. Now, moving on, Ola Cabs faces a leadership shakeup as CEO Hemant Bakshi abruptly resigned just 4 months into the role as per recent media reports. Now, his departure coincides with a looming restructuring ahead of Ola's IPO plans. The restructuring is also set to impact up to 10% of the workforce, and currently founder Bhavesh Agarwal is expected to step in to oversee operations, while a new appointment is also anticipated to fill the void as well. My colleague Astha Chopra is joining in again with some of those details as well. Astha, tell us a little more about this as well then.
Well, a very big news is coming directly from Ola Cabs that CEO Hemant Bakshi has quit his position as a CEO. This has taken the step where barely after the 4 months he joined in the job, and he joined in the firm to take care of the day-to-day operations as well. So firm is going through a restructuring process and can also lay off up to 10% of the staff. This is coming from other sources directly, and we got to know that this development come just after a few weeks when Ola Cabs was in discussion with the investment bank for the IPOs. So this announcement just came after the discussion. Then Hemant Bakshi will not be the CEO anymore as he quits his job as well. Also recently we came across that Ola Cabs has shut his operations, the international operations, for some reasons like rising competition and the government's fleet electrification targets. And now its main focus is to expand the business in India. So this is a very big news that is coming, that the Ola Cabs CEO Hemant Bakshi has quit his job, and the company's restructure can also happen, which can lay up to 10% of the staff as well.
Well, Astha, thanks so much for that. Let's keep it going with the auto space, and Mahindra & Mahindra has unveiled its latest offering, the subcompact SUV XUV 3XO, entering the fiercely competitive segment with a starting price of 7.49 lakh rupees. With rivals like Maruti Suzuki, Brezza, Tata Motors, Nexon and Hyundai Venue in its crosshairs, this is a launch that we'll be watching out for. My colleague Sumit Chaturvedi is joining in with more details.
So Mahindra & Mahindra has launched a new avatar, an entirely new generation of its SUV, subcompact SUV called XUV 3XO. Well, earlier Mahindra was present in this category, but it was not doing much. The category was going to other car makers including Maruti Suzuki's Brezza, Tata Motors Nexon and Hyundai's Venue, but it has got this entirely new SUV to come into that subcompact segment. We talk about this segment, overall SUV market in India is 25 lakh units every year. This segment sells 6 lakh overall small subcompact SUVs, and Mahindra wants a sizable share of this market. Mahindra also wants to be number 2 SUV player in the country by revenue, and it is hopeful that the XUV 3XO will help in getting those numbers. Important point here is that this SUV has got all the features which are present there in high-end SUVs. It has got petrol 1.2 engine, diesel 1.5 liter engine. It has also got good colors, overall good safety features and good design, interior and exterior also. So for Mahindra, success of this SUV is very important because it is doing well in upper segment with Scorpio and XUV 700, but in this compact segment, it has got its another SUV this time, a new one called XUV 3XO. This is Sumit Chaturvedi signing off from Nasik plant of Mahindra & Mahindra in Maharashtra.
All right, thanks Sumit for joining us with that update all the way from Nasik. But then with that, we're timed out on this segment. We'll see you on the other side with some more news and updates.
Hi there, welcome back. Thanks so much for still staying tuned to Market Cafe. Let's go across to my colleague Ashesha, who's standing by with a list of all the stocks that could be potential buzzers in today's trading session and the ones that we should be watching out for. Good morning, Ashesha. Take it away.
Yes, good morning, Snehi. Let's start off with SBFC Finance, where a block deal is expected to happen today. Promoters are looking to sell about 5.5% stake in the company. This is expected to happen at a discount of about 4.5% to yesterday's closing price. And the total offer size stands at about 537 odd crores on the back of this block deal, which is expected to happen today. Keep an eye out on SBFC Finance. Moving on to 3 other counters, which will be in focus on the back of order wins. Let's start with KEC International, where the company has won new orders worth 1,036 crores. RVNL, meanwhile, on the back of an EPC order worth 439 crores from Thiruvananthapuram Central Railway Station, will also be in focus. And RITES, where the company said that they won 928 crore order from Bangladesh Railway in collection with supply of 200 broad gauge. So on the back of order wins that have come through, these 3 counters, KEC International, RVNL and RITES, will be in focus. Moving on to NMDC then, where price hikes have come through. The company has gone ahead and informed the exchanges that they've increased iron ore prices by 400 rupees per ton for lump ore variety, and they've gone ahead and increased prices for fines by about 200 rupees per ton. So price hikes is why NMDC will also be in focus today. Moving on to Popular Vehicles then, on the back of their 4th quarter operational update, where revenues rose by about 5% on a year-on-year basis. And as far as their luxury car segment is concerned, this segment saw a solid growth of about 30% on a year-on-year basis. Meanwhile, a whole host of counters will be in focus on the back of results for the quarter gone by. Jana Small Finance Bank, Poonawalla FinCorp, eMudra and Canfin Homes reported very strong set of numbers for Q4. Meanwhile, on the flip side, let's also talk about Tata Chemicals, because it reported weak set of numbers. Weaker soda ash prices across geographies impacted 4th quarter results for Tata Chemicals. India EBITDA in fact slipped by nearly 7% on a sequential basis and nearly 26% on a year-on-year basis amid softness in soda ash prices and volumes and impact on realizations. On account of weak set of numbers that it has reported, Tata Chemicals will also be in focus today.
Absolutely, Ashesha. We'll keep an eye on all of those numbers that you mentioned earlier. But then Vesuvius also reported a strong set of numbers this Q4. So when you look at the profit after tax, that has jumped 60% on a year-on-year basis, and a strong set of numbers overall. So take us to the earnings fine print of this one as well.
Yes, very strong set of numbers. In fact, revenues for the quarter gone by stood at 453 odd crores, which is a growth of 24% on a year-on-year basis. Not only on a year-on-year basis, on a sequential basis also, company has reported strong growth of about 10%. As far as operational performance is concerned, that also looks very strong. EBITDA is up 61%. In fact, the company reported highest ever EBITDA in the quarter gone by. As far as margins are concerned, they've expanded to 22% versus 17% margins that the company had reported same time last year. As far as operational performance is concerned, as I mentioned, EBITDA margins have expanded, and analysts believe that freight cost disruption which happened last year seems to have now subsided, and hence margins have expanded this quarter on a year-on-year as well as on a sequential basis. Now, if we look at the trend, sales revenue growth has been very strong over the last few quarters. In first quarter FY24, company reported revenue growth of about 10%. It slowed down to 1 or 2% in the subsequent 2 quarters, but in the last quarter in Q4 also on a sequential basis, company has reported strong growth of about 9 to 10 odd percent. As far as margins are concerned, they stood at about 15% a couple of quarters ago, and they have subsequently expanded to 22% in the quarter gone by. So across the board, very strong set of numbers, revenue growth of about 9% on a sequential basis, and solid margin expansion at about 22 odd percent.
All right, Ashisha, thanks so much for taking us through that. Vesuvius will be the stock to watch out for in today's trading session. But which other counters should we be focusing on the back of brokerage notes coming out on them this morning? My colleague Gaurav is joining us with a roundup of that. Good morning, Gaurav. Take it away.
Well, yes, good morning. First, let's start with macro tech, because Morgan Stanley has now maintained equal weight rating but has increased the target price to 1230 rupees per share. What they believe is that they are actually raising the target for EBITDA margins because of the higher EBITDA margins that we have seen in the pre-sales. Apart from that, we have already seen that the company saw a success in Bangalore project, and at the same time QIP was also a hit, and because of this we may see de-risking happening in the business model. On the back of this, they are now expecting steady compounding of 20% on sales for the next few years to come up to a target price of 1230 rupees per share. Next, let's talk about Mahindra & Mahindra, because Investec has now maintained buy rating and maintained the target price of 2200 rupees. What they believe is that the recent launch of XUV 3XO could be a next leg of growth for the bank, for the company. We may see this launch to help the company to improve its compact SUV share in the market. And apart from that, Mahindra & Mahindra is actually the top pick for them because of the strong earning momentum that we have seen in the company and successful product launches that the company has already delivered. Next, let's talk about trend, because we saw the results came out, and Morgan Stanley, according to Morgan Stanley, they have actually maintained equal weight rating and a target price of 3635 on this company. What they believe is that Q4 was actually a beat on profitability and margins if we look at the numbers. Apart from that, they believe that grocery format can see continued improvement for the company in terms of consumer traction as well as sales. And apart from that, management commentary has also remained strong for the company. If you look at Jefferies also, now they have also maintained hold rating but increased the target price to 4150 rupees because they see more merits coming up because of the best practices that the group company has followed, like Titan and Tata Consumers. Apart from that, we also have Antique, who has actually upgraded the rating to buy and hiked the target price to 4876 rupees because they are expecting strong growth momentum because of the Zudio brand. And apart from that, they are also seeing improvement in profitability for the company. And lastly, we also have Nuvama, who has actually maintained buy rating and has hiked the target price to 4926 rupees because now they are actually factoring in higher gross margin, and because of which they are seeing PAT to deliver 5% growth more than what they had estimated earlier. So all in all, on back of brokerage notes, we will definitely watch out for these companies because we are seeing a strong word coming up from brokerages.
Gaurav, we'll keep an eye out for all of those counters then. But moving on, Nuvama has conducted an early analysis for changes to the AMFI market cap classification. Now, AMFI will provide its list of semi-annual rejig in the upcoming months. Which are the stocks that will get upgraded or downgraded? Sharad is joining in with all of those details. Sharad, tell us a little more about which are the ones that are making it to this rejig. Of course, the announcement is expected in July first week, but which are the ones that you're looking at?
Well, yes, in focus is AMFI's semi-annual categorization, and this is for the second half of calendar year 2024. Now, the official list will be expected to come in the first week of July, but as per a note by Nuvama, it's expected that there are certain stocks where there will be changes in the categorization. Now, of course, the list will be valid from August this year till January next year, and the stocks which should be in focus will be especially moving from mid-cap to small-cap. Their stocks include JSW Energy, Zydus Life, Hero Moto and NHPC. Also from small-cap to mid-cap, the certain stocks are there which Nuvama has pointed out, which includes the name of Hudco, BSC, MRPL, Hind Copper, Nalco and even Bharat Dynamics. While on the other side, from large cap to mid cap, it's expected that the stocks such as Berger Paints, Marico, SBI Cards and SRF would be in focus. And also from mid cap to small cap in this journey, Z, Pyramid Enterprises, Devyani, Kansai Nerolac and Vedant Fashions would be in focus.
All right, Sharad, thanks for all of those details. But while you're with us over here, tell us about J&K India. Now that IPO is all set to make its debut on the exchanges today. Help us with the listing scenario of the company. What can we expect when it comes to this IPO's listing today?
Well, yes, in focus is J&K India, and the company will be listing on the bourses today. Now, the IPO price is at 415 rupees per share, and the overall subscription that has been on almost 28 times. Now, as per the channel checks and the grey market premium, it's expected that there would be a listing gains of almost 20 to 25% today. And we did some scenario analysis as well in the listing, especially for the FY26 PE numbers, and if it's coming at an IPO price, the valuations are expected to come at almost 32 times, while if it comes at 20% premium, that's at almost 498 rupees per share, then the valuations are expected to be at 38 times, and if it goes to the higher side of almost 30% premium, that comes in at 42 times. Now, this company is basically a proxy play to the furnaces and the industrial machinery around that segment, and the peer segments include Bharat Dynamics and Thermax, to be precise.
All right, thanks Sharad for all of those updates, but let's get you some more updates coming in from the world outside stocks. Then 3 law enforcement officers lost their lives in a devastating shooting incident at a residence in Charlotte, North Carolina. Among the fallen were a deputy US Marshal and 2 local task force officers. It is also learned that one suspected attacker was found dead after a standoff which lasted for 3 hours. Moving on then, members of Indian diaspora organized an epic Hanuman Chalisa chanting in ports of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago under the patronage of the Indian High Commission located in the Caribbean nation and in association with Rajasthani Association of North America. Moving on then, BJP leader and former Union Minister V. Srinivasa passed away at the age of 77 years due to age-related ailments at a private hospital in Bengaluru. Remember, in March this year, the 6-time MP announced his political retirement as well.
Well, and let's talk about the weather, because heavy rain has triggered landslides in several parts of Jammu and Kashmir. The Jammu-Srinagar National Highway was also closed on Monday following multiple landslides. Pernote village, located approximately 6 kilometers from Ramban town in Jammu and Kashmir, has witnessed heavy damage to roads, houses and power towers. Well, and Team India captain Rohit Sharma marks his 37th birthday today. Rohit's illustrious career spanning over a decade and a half and has seen remarkable achievements, from his emergence as a promising talent at the ICC T20 World Cup in 2007 to his current status as one of the most revered figures in the sport. ET now wishes the hitman a very happy birthday. Let's keep it going with sport then, and let's talk about IPL, because Kolkata Knight Riders posted a 7-wicket win over Delhi Capitals at the Eden Gardens in Kolkata yesterday during the ongoing season of the Indian Premier League. KKR managed to limit Delhi Capitals to a total of 153 runs for the loss of 9 wickets in 20 overs before going to chase down the target with 21 deliveries left to spare.
Alright, with that, we're timed out on this edition of Market Cafe on ET Now. From me, Shreyansi Singh, Snehi Shah, as well as the entire team that put this show together, thank you so much for tuning in. You don't go anywhere, because the market takes all of the action forward.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.